Hello, everybody, and welcome back to From BA to Broadway. You know who it is. It's me. It's Brennan. And we're here for another episode of In the Spotlight. First and foremost, folks, this is the first episode we're recording since BroadwayCon. Thank you so freaking much. It was so much fun. Thanks to all of you who came out. And for those of you who didn't, we will be uploading the audio and video recording within the next couple of weeks. So that'll be one of our episode drops. So keep an eye out for that. Truly so grateful, so thankful. Also shout out to Chris and Clay for being our guests. It was an awesome, awesome time. Of course, general programming reminders. Every Monday we are here with the main pod, and every Wednesday Danny and I are bringing you In the Spotlight. Speaking of which, I'm obviously not here alone. It's Wednesday. Danny, what's going on?
Hey, what's up?
You know, same old, same old.
Today's special because we are wearing the same shirt.
That's just not true.
It's the same color.
Okay.
You're going to tell me that this isn't like the same?
I think it does look close. Yours feels more maroon and mine feels more plum.
Forgot you know this stuff.
Colors. Yeah, pretty crazy.
You know clothes and stuff.
I'll give it to you, though. That was pretty observant. I'm proud of you.
Come on, we're matchy. We're matchy.
Sure,
matchy.
yeah. Twinsies.
I should have put on my black shorts.
Practically twins.
Not to oust what you're wearing on the pod.
That's okay. I'll upload a pic on stories.
Of you in a suit, and you're like, this is what I was really wearing. This is what I wear every time, I swear.
You t-shirt, shorts, me, suit, full suit. Every time. Listen, I like authenticity. I want to feel like a real talk show. Anywho, folks, topical today, we're here to talk about good old Stephen Sondheim's Assassins, the musical. The musical.
Assassins, the musical.
Specifically. Yeah.
I'm so excited. I love this show.
Danny's really excited.
I was telling Brennan, I was listening to my iPod the other day. I was listening to music the other day.
My iPod
I dated
shuffle.
myself. And on Shuffle, Assassins came up, and immediately I texted Brennan and I said, we are doing Assassins for the next episode because I have a lot to say on Assassins, and I love Assassins. So we're going to jump in. Let's jump in.
Do it.
So Assassins is, obviously, as you said, music and lyrics by our very own Stephen Sondheim, with a book by John Weidman. I didn't know this. It's based off of a play that is titled Assassins by playwright Charles Gilbert Jr.
Oh, wow.
And the play was a bit different, but it had the idea of different assassins in U.S. history in conversation with each other.
Gotcha.
So Sondheim read the play and thought that was like a really brilliant idea. So he got permission to use that idea and then wrote the musical based off of it.
Amazing.
It's a really kind of interesting show because it's not kind of like the shows we've talked about so far. It's not your typical book scene through plot line, goes in order. Honestly, I was thinking about it. It's kind of similar to Cats.
Yeah. I can't believe that's the one you chose, but yeah.
Am I wrong?
I mean, in terms of what we've done so far, I guess you're right.
It's closer to a review with a bunch of vignettes featuring real-life presidential assassins in U.S. history. And the framework of the show is kind of around all of the assassins congregating on a fairground shooting gallery where a fictionalized character called the proprietor, at the beginning of the show, he gives them all guns and promises them that they can live the American dream if they shoot the president. And the fairground, and sometimes it's also portrayed as a bar, is kind of this meeting place where there are scenes where all the assassins come back to. And what's cool is that they are putting these real life people from like all different time periods in conversation with each other.
Yeah.
And so there are scenes with characters who lived in totally different time periods having conversations with each other because they have obviously the shared history of being a U.S. assassin.
Yeah.
And there's the other fictional character in the show is titled The Balladeer, and he is essentially the narrator of the show I read this and I thought about it and thought it was a really interesting take that he is the personification of the American dream.
Yeah.
And so he is narrating the story, and almost every assassin has a song, and he always has bits in their pieces kind of explaining their motivations and justifying why they did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to just run down our characters here, our key characters. So we have John Wilkes Booth, who obviously assassinated Abraham Lincoln in 1865.
Throwback.
We had Remember when? Remember
Oh
what?
my
Do you
God.
remember where you were?
Yeah.
And we have Charles J. Guiteau, who assassinated James A. Garfield in 1881. We have Leon Czolgosz, who assassinated William McKinley in 1901. We have Giuseppe Zangara, who attempted to assassinate FDR in 1933. He did miss and instead shot Anton Semak, the mayor of Chicago. We have Samuel Bick, who attempted to assassinate Richard Nixon by hijacking a plane in 1974 and was not successful. We have Sarah Jane Moore, who attempted to assassinate Gerald Ford in 1975. We have Lynette Squeaky Fromm, who was a member of the Manson family who attempted to assassinate Gerald Ford also in 1975. Her and Sarah Jane Moore are actually the only two women in history who have made presidential assassination attempts. And they also their attempts happened within 3 weeks of each other.
Crazy.
But I think it's reported that they have never met.
Wow.
So that is a fictionalized part of the show where they have a scene together, but it is interesting their parallels.
Imagine if one of them succeeded before the other one could. I feel like she would have been so pissed.
That she never got the chance?
Yeah.
Probably. And then we have two more. We have John Hinckley Jr., who attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan in 1981.
Of course.
He was seeking fame in order to impress the actress Jodie Foster, with who he was obsessed with. And then we have Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated JFK in 1963. And of this list, only Sarah Jane... I don't know if Sarah Jane Moore is alive, but Squeaky Fromm and John Hinckley Jr. are still alive, and they're both out of prison today. They're free.
I don't think they should be.
John Hinckley Jr. actually has a YouTube channel where he makes original music.
No.
Yeah.
Insane.
Uh-huh.
That's crazy. Y'all, if that doesn't say anything about the American justice system.
Because I think what I was reading, I forget which states they were both prosecuted in, but they both got life sentences.
Yeah.
And the statute is that if you have a life sentence and you've served 30 years with good behavior, you are eligible for parole no matter what. I'm sure if they succeeded in their assassination attempt, they would have, not been released. But supposedly they good behavior. They turned it around. Squeaky did have an escape attempt at one point, so she served a couple more years for that. But as of now, they are both free.
There are people in prison for life from marijuana, and there are people who tried to assassinate a president.
Attempted.
I know they tried. They sure tried. Yeah. Intended to, and they are out free. Yep. This is a political episode, y'all. First of all, theater is political, so I am not going to shy away from any of that ever. But this is particularly political, and that is messed up.
And usually, the actor who plays the balladeer doubles as Lee Harvey Oswald. And the choice made in the 2004 Broadway production, which has kind of become canon, is that during the song Another National Anthem, that is the song where all the assassins are converging. It's kind of towards the end of the show, and it's the point of the show where they're creating their own national anthem because they have determined that the American dream is a farce, and it's really kind of a powerful, scary type of song. And they all surround the balladeer as he's trying to inject positivity, and they turn him into Lee Harvey Oswald, which is kind of a scary choice when you're watching the manifestation of the American dream turn into someone who is an infamous American assassin.
Yeah.
So that's kind of become, I think, standard in this show, which wasn't a choice before the Broadway production. So that's kind of our show wrapped in a bow. The key players, we have a couple productions up, and this isn't a show that has had a ton of revivals. It hasn't had a ton of major productions.
No.
But reading through, this is a show that he has assembled some really killer casts. That was not intended. So the first... No. So the first staged reading of the show happened in December of 1989, directed by Jerry Zaks. It was at Playwrights Horizons. And this cast was insane because Michael Jeter of Grand Hotel fame, I don't know if you've ever seen him.
I have not.
Watch the Grand Hotel Tony performance. That show is, I feel like it's kind of a lost show. Like, people don't really talk about it.
I've never heard of that, ever.
They do a song called We'll Raise the Glass Together. His performance is one of the great Tony performances in history.
Heard.
Watch what he does. He's insane. So he played Giuseppe Zingara in the original reading. Swoozie Kurtz played Squeaky Fromm, and Christine Baranski played Sarah Jane Moore. Victor Garber was Booth, and Nathan Lane was Sam Bick. Like, what a crazy cast.
That is crazy.
Stacked. And then they opened up a full production at Playwrights Horizons in 1990, which was also directed by Jerry Sachs. Most of the cast was different. Victor Garber remained as James Wilkes Booth. Terrence Mann came in to play Cholgaz. I feel like Terrence Mann is surprisingly just like a huge thread throughout musical theater. He's in everything. He's been in like every show, every iconic show. If you go back to the original cast, like he's been a part of it. Les Mis, Cats, Assassins.
I guess so, yeah.
Like he was the original Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
He was.
He's just being his footprint in musical theater. It's always surprising to me. I'm like, you've been in everything.
Hop off, Terrence.
Hop off, Terry. Lee Wolkoff replaced Nathan Lane as Sam Bick. Deborah Monk came in to play Sarah Jane Moore. Annie Golden played Squeaky. Those were kind of our big hitters in that cast. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where the show lived for a while. It kind of got mixed to negative reviews. I think it's a really shocking show, and because of the subject matter, it took a while for the show's ideas to take hold and for people to be open to receiving the material. And then Roundabout Theater Company, so they planned a Broadway production for 2001, and that was right when the September 11th attacks occurred. And so they decided to wait on that production for a while.
Feels good. Feels right about that. Yeah,
appropriate amount of time. So they opened that production in April of 2004, which was directed by Joe Mantello. And this cast was crazy, too. Neil Patrick Harris played the balladeer.
Crazy.
And Lee Harvey Oswald. This was, I think, a year before How I Met Your Mother. So he was famous because he was a child actor, but he wasn't...
He wasn't Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, he wasn't the Neil Patrick Harris that we know.
Yeah.
I think this back when his like musical theater days, because he did a ton before How I Met Your Mother.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Service played Booth, which won him a Tony Award. We had Dennis O'Hare, James Barber, Mario Cantone played Sam Bick. If anyone is a Sex and the City fan, he is Anthony.
So sorry, not my culture.
That's not. You don't know. I knew that.
I don't know Sex and the City.
That's disappointing.
Sorry,
Everyone sent Brennan hate.
Yes, please. Oh my god.
We have Becky Ann Baker, Alex Gemignani, Mark Kudish. That was a really, really wonderful production. And then the next major production was the John Doyle directed off-Broadway run at Classic Stage Company that opened in November of 2021. And this one was Judy Kuhn as Sarah Jane Moore, Will Swenson as Gateau, Brandon Uranowitz as Cholgosh, Wesley Taylor, Stephen Pasquale, Ethan Slater, Tavi Jennison, Adam Chandler Broad.
Yeah.
It was a stacked cast. I think
sure.
that was like in true John Doyle and Classic Stage Company form. That was really pared down.
Yeah.
I think the cast doubled as the ensemble. Ethan Slater played the guitar as the balladeer the whole time. That was sold out before they even sold. I joined the lottery every day. Couldn't get in to see it.
Damn.
And I think that opened the same time that Company opened.
Oh, okay.
Company and this Classic Stage Assassins were the last two shows Sondheim saw before he passed.
No way.
So I think both of them opened in the same week, and he saw both of them, and then the next week or so is when he passed.
Oh, wow.
Or the next month or so. But these were like the last two major shows of his in New York running at the time of his passing. So it's kind of special that he got to see.
That's very special, yeah.
You know, especially Assassins, which didn't get as many revivals as maybe some of his other shows was getting a huge off-Broadway run. And what do we got? It's a great score. Sondheim actually is quoted as saying this is one of the perfect scores he wrote.
Wow.
It's interesting. Something I love about this score is that they are portraying so many characters from so many different periods of American history. And so the score reflects that.
Yeah.
And each character is singing a song from their time period.
Yeah.
Which I think is fascinating.
I mean, it's all very distinct, but in a way that really flows together really nicely.
Mhm.
I mean, I would say yes. I guess when I think about it objectively like that, it is probably one of the more perfect, if not the most
Yeah.
perfect,
Because he
of
kind
his
of,
works.
it's what a crazy task to write a cohesive musical, because all the musical has to be somewhat cohesive
Yes.
as one, but at the same time portraying music from so many different time periods and so many different styles.
Truly.
That man.
Yeah.
So the song Something Just Broke was not originally in the score, and they wrote it. They originally added it into the show for a 1992 London production, and I think it kind of made its big debut in the Broadway production.
Okay.
And it's kind of a really contested song. Like, a lot of Sondheim fans and a lot of musical theater fans debate whether or not the song should be in the show or shouldn't be in the show.
Okay.
I'm a fan of it. It's a song that depicts, and it's the only time in the entire show you get the actual effects of the assassinations. It's sung from the perspective of American citizens who are discussing, I know exactly where I was, and I know exactly what I was doing when I found out that the president was shot, that the president was assassinated. And the argument that I've heard is that the whole point of the show is to, I think, humanize these assassins, and you spend a whole show laughing at their jokes, hearing their gripes, and you kind of sort of sympathize with them in a little way.
For sure.
And a lot of people say we don't need to be spoon-fed that assassination is bad, and we don't need to be let off the hook.
Of course.
Until the show's over. But I think it's almost more powerful to be sitting there for an hour and a half, almost sympathizing, and like Sam Bick is like 2-page long monologues that are full of jokes. You're laughing the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. And then you hear this beautiful song and you're reminded, oh wait, they're the bad guys.
Of course.
Like, the whole show is about the bad guy.
Yeah.
And Sondheim, actually, in his book Finishing the Hat, let me pull it out. He talks about it extensively, and he has a really good quote. I'm going to read a Sondheim quote for all you Sondheim girlies out there.
Open quote.
And this is on the song Something Just Broke. So he says, it became immediately clear that the missing song should deal with the nation's shock at each of the assassinations, not just the news itself, but the way that the news was spread, the chain of grief, especially in the days when communications throughout the country was slow and sporadic. The show up to that point had been so claustrophobic, necessarily so. It took place in an enclosed world of angry and despairing people. What was missing was some musical expression of the outside reality, the emotional impact of these irrational, or rational but misguided, act on all of us bystanders. When Assassinations was revived, and brilliantly by the Roundabout Theatre Company in 2004, the song was criticized as being an unnecessary afterthought calculated to add warmth to the piece. I like to think that any additional song would have evoked this reaction simply because the show was so tight and streamlined in the first place. But for us, the song is not only necessary, it is essential.
Heard.
That should close up any debate.
Boom! Mic drop, Mr. Sondheim.
So I agree with him. I love the song. I think it's a beautiful song. I have not seen in person a production of Assassins.
Same here.
I've been in one in college.
Mm-hmm.
I played Sam Bick. And there's a really good bootleg of the 2004 Broadway production that I highly recommend everyone see. Again, we're pro bootleg on this podcast.
Of course. Make theater accessible.
Don't tell the elites.
Never. Love a slime tutorial.
So I've seen bootlegs of the show. I've never seen it live. So I would love to, and I would love to. I feel like obviously it's a bigger impact when you're sitting in a theater.
Of course.
But it is a gorgeous show.
Absolutely.
And I think that song is necessary.
I would say so. It's not. I feel like it's never taken me out, like when listening to it,
No.
Or even when I've watched Boots, like it's never been something that I've questioned like that. That's interesting that people feel that way. But I guess I was exposed to the show with it in it already. It's not like it's something that I experienced the addition of. So
yeah,
I guess I could play a component into that. But
yeah. And we have 3 cast albums for the show. There is the original Playwrights Horizons production has a cast album, which I highly recommend listening to. The 2004 Broadway album, though, I am a purist. I'm like annoyingly so. I always think the original album is better. I think I think 99.9 times out of 10, if you go back to the original cast album of a show, it's going to be better. You're hearing the original orchestrations. You're hearing the cast that workshopped the music, the cast that the music a lot of times was written for. If you have a show you love that you listen to like a revival album, I'm getting really into the weeds of nerd here right now.
Interesting. Yeah.
Listen to the original, not even Broadway, just the original cast album. It's always going to be better. I think it's very rare that a revival, there are some that I prefer, but like it's very rare that a revival album is better than the original, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think this is a case where the 2004 Broadway album is the definitive Assassins album.
Heard.
In my opinion.
Okay.
I think they added a lot of dialogue into that album, which I love. You get to hear Mario Cantone do Sam Bick's monologue. They recorded that as a track, so his performance is phenomenal, and you get to hear that. A lot of the orchestrations feel a lot fuller. A lot of the tempos feel a lot snappier and more pulsing. I don't like the wording of that.
Yeah,
I think there probably is merit that there was a Broadway production, so they probably had more time, resources, and money to create that album. But I would definitely listen to the Broadway album if you want a full scope of the show and what the show looks like. And they did do a recording of the Classic Stage Company, and it's fine.
Ooh.
It's not my favorite. I think we have two really solid albums, and if you're going to make a third, then it should be, like, phenomenal.
Okay.
And I don't know. The actors were phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think it's a show that I don't love it. I like, sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. I really like the full orchestrations of this show. I think that it's a show that really is enhanced by a full orchestra.
Yeah.
And in typical John Doyle fashion, he kind of pared it down a bit.
Yes.
And I don't think it's quite as effective.
That's valid. I feel like I'm always one who enjoys when there's multiple, because I like to see, especially for a show that is older, I like to see what it is like in the modern day lens. But I think that's also just coming out of an actor preparation kind of thing, where it's easier for me to put myself in that and kind of learn and cater in that regard. But I mean, in terms of the respect and the full authenticity, the OG is always gonna be the best for the most part.
I mean, there's obviously exceptions.
Yeah.
But just to hear the person that the score was written for
sure,
it just hits in a different way. But there are moments in like the 2004 album of Assassins, and I think this is intentional, where the full orchestra is playing, and because it's a lot of the music is patriotic, or it's a take on patriotic music, it's so overwhelming and flowing that it overwhelms you. Like the music interlude after Lee Harvey Oswald shoots JFK it's so overwhelming. It's one of my favorite instrumentals, I think, in musical theater.
Okay, wow.
And it's so short. It's like that. Here, I'll play it for you.
Oh my god.
We'll get another audio. I know. I love to do this. He's about to shoot JFK. Ready? Come on.
Yeah.
Just imagine sitting in a theater with a full orchestra playing that.
For sure.
When I played that, you were supposed to put your volume all the way up and put your headphones in. So do that.
Yeah.
And feel emotional. And I think that's lost when you take out the instruments, when you like lessen that horn section.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of a huge.
Of course.
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, also, crazy that we're kind of living in this now, too.
I was thinking about that, too. I just wonder what the reception of the show would be like today if he wrote the show today.
If he wrote it today.
Yeah, not even necessarily if he wrote about current events.
Mhm.
I just mean, obviously politics is very divided right now. It's
Of
like the
course.
country is very, very divided. And there's just, I don't think there is enough unity and faith in the government to necessarily feel the feelings that are evoked in the song Something Just Broke.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So it's almost a nostalgic feeling. Like it's a nostalgic feeling to feel personally upset and affected
Yeah.
by something like an assassination or an assassination attempt.
For sure.
And I think we saw it recently.
Yeah.
You know, where it was
Of
like,
course.
I don't know, were you sad?
That's the thing was I mean, let's get into it. We're going for authentic here. It was one of those things where I was like, my instant reaction was, life is probably going to be a lot easier, or life would have been a lot easier should it have been successful. However,
Secret Service knocks down our door right
literally,
now. Takes you away.
This podcast, we're going to be arrested.
We're just talking about musical theater, I promise.
Our entire digital footprint is about to be erased. No, it's one of those things where I was like, oh man, I know I shouldn't wish this upon anyone. You know, I know that is extreme and a lot, but also I know that it felt like my life would have gotten a lot easier. My surroundings, my communities would have been a lot safer in those regards. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I still have mixed feelings about it. And then also there's obviously the conspiracy theorist deep in me that's like, was it real and all of this jazz? I saw a picture and his ear seemed fine, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But like,
there's just a lack of, I think, faith in the government.
Yeah.
That it feels like,
I think if we weren't in such a political shit show right now, that I would have felt way worse about the situation, or I would have had more clear feelings at least. But I think because we are in the climate that we are in, that I feel so gray about it.
Yeah. And we're also just a weird age group where we were never really around or we weren't like cognizant enough to be aware of a time when there was like full allegiance and full faith in the government, where
or like have experienced national tragedy, like, you know, where we were young when 9/11 happened.
Like maybe the president wasn't my party, but if he was assassinated, we would all come together about that. We're not in an age of that.
No.
And so I was listening to like Something Just Broke today, and I was thinking about it. I was like, this is a period piece.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just like a different thing than what it used to be.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of reasons I wish Sondheim was alive, but I would love to hear his statement.
Oh,
you know?
100%.
Not that he was a great political leader in his day, but you know what I mean? As someone who wrote this kind of a show, I would love to hear what he would have to say about it. Because, you know, like everyone would be asking him his opinion, his edit of the show.
2025 revival, new song,
you know,
Lend Me Your Ears.
It does... How long have you been working on that?
Oh, I obviously thought of it earlier today.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
I do fear the creative directors we're gonna get.
Oh,
doing a creative Assassin.
Of course.
Updated Assassin.
Yes.
I hope they hold that IP a little tighter now.
Yeah. I think we can just wait on that one. I think it can still be sparsely done. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think we can keep the show the way it's written. We don't have to update it.
No.
It's fine.
No.
It's a good show.
It's great.
A really good show.
It's very good.
I was thinking, because I know you always talk about audition songs.
Yeah. This one's tricky.
It's tricky.
I think you can find cuts for sure, but I don't think there is a whole song.
No, there's not. I don't think there is a song in the show that is a 100% solo. I think every song...
The balladeer is at least contributing to most of them.
Yeah, like every song has at least a contribution. I think if you're going to think about singing songs from the show, you just need to be exceptionally intentional.
Yes.
Intentional.
100%.
I don't think that a song from the show should ever be your go-to Sondheim song that you use for everything. I think there could be a really wonderful cut if you have like a beautiful baritone.
Yeah.
A cut from Gun Song, like the beginning or the end, maybe. But again, very intentional about the kind of thing you're gonna sing it for. But
Totally.
I love that song. I think you could find something really cool in there.
Yeah.
I think the obvious choice, especially for like a young person, is Unworthy of Your Love.
Which I say don't do. I think my vote is don't do it. I think it's very oversaturated right now, especially after The Politician.
Probably, yeah.
You know?
But at the same time, again, we've said this with Sondheim, every Sondheim song's overdone.
That's valid.
So if I don't know, I think if you can do a song from Assassins to make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up,
Hell yeah.
do it.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely do it with intention, of course, of what it is you're going to sing it for. Or I love the character of Gateau. I think Gateau is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a world where you could find like a fun little cut in his song.
Yeah.
Right before he gets hanged. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird show. It's a weird score.
Mm-hmm.
It's really dark and creepy.
And patriotic at the same time. It's wild.
You know, want to hear about the production I did in college?
Absolutely.
It was a student directed production.
Oh boy. Oh God.
And you'll always get an interesting take.
Of course.
So we did a small cat. We actually did the Classic Stage Company before they did it.
Ooh.
We did just the leads, and then we all doubled as the ensemble for ensemble numbers.
Okay.
Which is a cool choice. I like that choice. And it was in a black box because everything at NYU is in a black box.
I feel like that's a good
NYU
kind of space
does not
for
have
the
a
show.
proscenium theater. I think they do now, but they did not when I was there. And his idea was that the audience was the jury and the whole show is a trial.
Interesting.
And so he built a jury box for the audience to sit in, which is really interesting in theory.
Yeah.
However, in real life, in a trial, there were only 12 jurors. So he only allowed 12 audience members at a time to view our show.
No.
So we performed the entire musical, staged, costumed, all the things of Assassins for audiences of 12.
That's crazy.
And
how many shows did you do?
We did quite a bit.
Okay.
I think we did 7 in the course of 3 days.
Okay.
And I think, on one hand, I think that's really cool because it's an intimate, creepy show, and I think that's creepy. I think that's really, there is something to seeing the show where they're in your face.
Yeah.
And it's really, when we were handling guns, prop real guns that we were waving around, pointing at the audience, and I think that evokes a certain sense of creepiness.
Of course.
But I also, people who saw the show there's a when you're sitting in that small of an audience, there's a certain amount of self-awareness that you can't not, it's nice to sit in a big audience of a show and lose yourself in the show. And you're not thinking about every time you like adjust yourself in your seat. God. Every time you have to like maybe go like
cough, God forbid. If you have to get up and go to the bathroom.
And I think that people were, it made them so hyper aware that it took them out of the show.
Heard.
Because it was like, every time that I rustled in my seat a little, the whole jury box shook.
I would have been
and my 11 other co-audience members just looked at me. And I was told that the guns were a bit much in that small of a space.
Okay.
Because we were like a couple feet away from the audience pointing guns at their face.
I know. I just feel like guns are like, you should expect guns if you're going to a show
100%,
called Assassin,
100%.
I know that can be a lot in a small space.
What also happened was, so we were all unhappy because the tickets were sold out before they went on sale, pretty much just to our parents.
Yeah.
And so we were at school, we were college kids, we were like, all of our friends want to come see the show. And so we made our 2 dress rehearsals, invited dress rehearsals, and we opened up the audience to more than 12 because they were just our dress rehearsals. So our 2 invited dress rehearsals had audiences of like 100.
Oh my God.
And so it turned into a show like in a 3/4 thrust because they were sitting everywhere.
Yeah.
They were sitting everywhere. We had these huge drama blocks we were using as sets, and it was like okay, just make sure someone's not sitting on a drama block and don't hit them when you move.
Yeah.
And we were just surrounded by 100 peers. And we were like, God forbid we just allowed these people to be spaced out through the performances by allowing 20 people in the jury box. So it was
That's
a really chaotic production of Assassins.
I love that, though. I mean, as soon as you said jury box, I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that. However, no, that's something where you sacrifice the authenticity.
And I think I think it's a little bit of an infamous production of Assassins from people in our grade, because everyone's like, oh, that 12 audience production of Assassins. And then, okay, I'll get into it here. They don't listen to the show. There's a little drama, too, because a member of our cast... I think, was it April Fool's Day? I think we had a show on April Fool's Day. And he came out, and instead of singing whatever song he was supposed to be singing, he started singing Wonderwall in the middle of a performance.
Why on earth? And
then he was like, hey guys, I'm just kidding. And then proceeded to sing the song from the show. And so that spread like wildfire, too.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I can just imagine the kind of person that would do that.
I just remember all of us sitting in the dressing room, and then we were like, "Whoa, did I imagine that?
Yeah.
Did I just hear did I just hear what I like?" It was a wild time.
Terrible.
It was a wild time. I would love to do the show again.
I would love for you to get to do that show again for the sake of that. Hysterical. Okay.
So that's my personal experience with the show.
I love that.
But this is a show I really love.
Yeah, I can tell.
And I didn't realize how much I loved it until I started to research it for the show. And I was like, this is a fascinating show.
Yeah.
I love a good history play.
Yeah, it's neat. It's neat when it's actually consumable, you know?
Yeah, and it's interesting history, too.
For sure.
There's only, a show like 1776, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, it's the Founding Fathers. But this is so fascinating.
100%.
And it's stuff that you don't necessarily know. Like, before I did the show, I was like, I don't know half of these names on this list.
Truly.
You learned so much.
Yeah. John Wilkes Booth. Lee Harvey Oswald. End of list.
Yep. But now, like, Sam Bick. I don't think anyone knew who he was before this show.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Ronald Reagan... No, that's not who he tried to assassinate. Richard Nixon. Found out days later. And was like, oh, there was an attempt? That's how failed this attempt was.
That sucks.
Like, days later.
Yeah, that sucks for Sam. Sorry, Sam.
And it also puts it in the context of these people thought that they were doing something so important. And they were doing something that was going to be remembered for, like, all of history. And even if you look at the lyrics of Something Just Broke, as the song progresses, the intensity of the grief lessens and lessens. Because as in human life, we process our grief and then we move on from it. And so, in the moment, you are the most important person in the news cycle. You are the most infamous person in history in that moment that you pulled the trigger.
And you know what?
But as we get farther and farther away from it, you become a footnote in history.
I think that is absolutely terrifying, because I think we are currently living in an age where there is an overwhelming amount of people who would probably feel that way.
Expand.
I feel like there is a giant faction of people who think that they could pull a trigger and be an absolute hero for this country.
I guess.
Yeah. I don't know.
But it hasn't happened. I mean, it did, but it took a long time for that to happen.
Not in the way that I'm into, like, I'm speaking of, you know?
Was that, that John Mulaney bit that he does on serial killers and bank robbers?
Oh, yeah.
He's like, as long as they don't catch you doing in the act.
Exactly.
You're good.
They announce it anyways.
They're like, clean up the blood.
I'm Soda Pop McGee. Bang, 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 bang. Like, or whatever.
They're like, police, they left all this blood. And he's like, clean it up.
Ew. Oh my God. Good times. Okay, we're
approaching.
We're over the 40-minute mark here, so I think it's time to bring it to an end. Any closing
I think
thoughts?
I was good, though.
That was great.
I really ran through quick. I knew you were worried about it.
For sure. Any closing thoughts? Any closing remarks?
I don't think so. Go watch a bootleg.
Do it.
Hug your mom.
Yeah.
In honor of Brennan's last episode.
With my mom, yes.
Yeah.
Go listen to that episode with my mom.
Listen to his episode with his mom, watch the bootleg of Assassins in that order, and listen to all 3 soundtracks in rapid succession.
Absolutely.
And draw your own conclusions.
Yeah. As always, folks, if there's a show you want to hear us talk about, you can do so by finding us on Patreon. That is patreon.com/BA to Broadway. Any principal tier subscribers can let us know what they want to hear, and we'll do an episode dedicated to you and your show. Also, you can find a bunch of other fun bonus content on there, all that jazz, so check it out. As always, you can find us on social media at BA to Broadway. You can find me at Brennan Stefanik.
You can find me at DSauls.
And until next week, folks.
That's our show.
Bang, 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 bang. Bye. From BA to Broadway is created, produced, and edited by Brennan Stefanik, music by Dylan Kaufman, and cover art by Jordan Vongsithi.